Let us pray. Father, I want to thank you for the privilege of coming before you again to learn at your feet. We thank you for what you have accomplished in our lives through the previous teachings that we've had. We thank you for transformation. We thank you for illumination. Lord, we're here again to learn at your feet. We ask that your word will have free course in us. We ask that you talk to us by yourself. And your word will possess power to bring transformation to our various lives. And to make us that kind of Christian that you expect that will take the kingdom for you. The kind of Christians that put you first before self. And we ask that your word will also possess power to heal, to deliver, to make whole. Thank you, blessed Father. In Jesus' mighty name that we prayed. Amen. Yeah, welcome to today's teaching. My name is Dayo-Ojo. Today we're looking at God's plan for a functional world system. Now, in our last teaching, we looked at how God had a manual for creation and how the Bible is not a Christian book, but a book for humanity. That's God's manual to creation in general. And that Christian has his own portion there, unbelievers have their own portion there, and all of that. But we concluded that the manual actually affects Christians in every way. And therefore, Christians possessing the Spirit of God are the ones that can interpret the Bible. So that's why people believe that it is a Christian book. No, it's not actually a Christian book. It's the manufacturer manual that is accompanying creation. Just the same way when you have a product, you have the manual, and now people will read instructions on how to maximize the functionality of that function. So we want to go a step further today by looking at those things that God thought of before he actually created the world that we see today. Just the same way manufacturer will think of so many things before he starts bringing forth that product that he wants to make. So God too, a lot of things ran through his mind. And those things helped him to decide what the earth should look like and how the earth should run. So today we are going to be keen to the heart of God to see those things from the Bible, as we glean from the Bible, those things he thought of in bringing the world together and the kind of world he expects, how he wants the world to run. We're going to also examine the manual that God has given to us and interpret it even as he expected us Christians to interpret it for the good of humanity in general. So I'm going to start by saying that when God created man, or at the point of creation, God knew that man was going to fall. And that if he fell, he was not going to perform the responsibility that God actually gave to him at the beginning. So God thought of redemption. So the first thing God thought of, or let me say one of the things God thought of at the point of creation of the world that we see today was the redemption of humanity. And we can see that in the book of 1 Peter chapter 1, we're going to read from 18 to 20. 1 Peter 1, we're starting from 18 or 2 to 20. For as much as ye know that ye were not redeemed with corruptible things, as silver and gold, from your vain conversation, received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. 20. Who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times to you. So you can see that the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ was not just an ad-hoc thing. It was something planned before even Adam was created. So it was manifest to us now in this last stage, according to what we have read there. So that's one of the things that God thought of. And we're going to look at how God now decided at what point should redemption start. Because it could have started immediately after Adam. Or when I say could have started, Jesus could have come immediately after Adam. It could have come before Abraham. It could have come immediately after Abraham. It could have come at any point before that time he came. So why did God delay in bringing Jesus into the show? So we're going to look at all those things and some of the things that God considered. So another thing God looked at was to capture every human being that was going to live on the surface of the earth in that planning stage before he actually created man. Like I said, he knew man was going to fall. That means there will be unbelievers on earth. Among the unbelievers, there will be those who will be serving idols. There will be those who will not even believe in the existence of God. So God captured everybody in his plan. Because we are his offspring. That's every human being is an offspring of God. Meaning that he created all of us. We might not be his children, but at least he created everybody. So he is to cater for us. God, he brought us to this world. So in God's plan, he looked at it that he created everybody, animals, us, everything. And therefore, his plan covered everybody, unlike what we have been taught, giving impression that God is only mindful of Christians. No, that's not true. In fact, it's so clear in the Bible that God is mindful of every human being that is on the surface of the earth, whether that person is a Christian or not. And the last teaching we established it, that some of the blessings that we have attached to Christians is not actually true. That those blessings were meant for humanity in general. You might want to go and look at that message. The title of that message was God's Goodness to All, Religion Regardless. So you might want to go and look at that message, that God cater for everybody and is interested in the productivity and functionality of everyone on earth here. And then we looked at the fact that some of the things we said is prosperity for Christians alone is actually prosperity for all man. Now, like I said, God catered for everyone when he was making his plan. And we can see that in the book of Exodus chapter 12. We're going to read from 43 to 49. Exodus 12 will start from 43. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. Giving instruction to people of Israel, giving instruction for strangers too. Let's go further. But every man's servant that is brought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. You see, it's capturing foreigners and hired servant, meaning that he didn't leave it to only people of Israel. Let's go further. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad, out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, you see now, he's still talking about a stranger now, not people of Israel, and will keep the Passover of the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. So it's clear that not only did God give instruction concerning the people of Israel, he gave instruction also concerning strangers that might be in that land, that they should not eat out of it. If they must eat, he gave instructions on what they could do or they should do before they can partake in the Passover. So we're trying to say that God is always interested in everybody. He will give instruction for everybody. Not the same way a manufacturer will give instruction that will concern every area of that product. Let's see again Leviticus chapter 19. Leviticus 19, 9 and 10. And when you reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not only reap the corners of the field, neither shalt thou gather the gleanings of the harvest. And thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of the vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and the stranger. You see, it still captures stranger there. Not only the poor among the people of Israel, even the strangers that might be among them, that they should leave those things for them. He said, I'm the Lord your God. So God is always interested in everyone that is in that land, right from even the time of Moses, right from Genesis. He has always been interested in everybody. And then, so we're going to see how now God cater for everyone, both the believer, both the unbelievers, and every other person as we go further in our teaching. So one of the other things that God thought of again was the need for absolute truth. Let me explain. When God created man, it was like this. Now, for those who have been following us, we said man was like this. Now, this is the soul of man. This is the spirit of man. We said that the real man, the actual man, is this, that has a soul. Now, in this soul now is a place called the heart of man. This heart is like the engine. We have said that severally. Just like when you make a car, the car will have an engine. That engine is the powerhouse of that car. The same way the powerhouse of man, being a soul, is in his soul. And that powerhouse is called the heart. I'm not yet to prove that because I know they have taught us otherwise. They have taught us completely different things that are not biblical, that we cannot find scriptural backings to. But you see a lot of things in the Bible about the heart determines what that creature is. when God wanted to make Nebuchadnezzar to behave like an animal, the Bible says, let the heart of man be taken away from him. Let him be given the heart of a beast. It's your heart that determines who you are. The heart is your soul, being a soul. So this is the heart of man that God intended. Don't forget that I said at the planning stage, God planned the creation generally. So at planning stage, God planned that man should look like this. And this is the man he created. It should have a spirit, it should have a soul. He planned also other things like animal. Let's say this is man, he planned animals, he planned fishes, he planned birds, right? He planned all of these things. Now, that's at the planning stage, before execution. The first plan, man, I said this is the plan. Animal, fish. Among them now, God wanted somebody who will be the manager of everything created. And again, for the purpose of performing the function that God called man to do, that's to humiliate the devil, which I said severally, but I don't want to go into here. So for that purpose now, God felt among these ones, which one should manage the place for me? And he decided that it is the man who had the highest intelligence. He now said, let me now make man. You're saying, see, a planning stage, he has made all of this in his mind. He now said, let me pick man and make him in my image. That is, let me alter the plan I have for what a man should look like and plan him now to now carry my image and likeness. That's why you saw in the book of Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, he said, let me make man. He said, let us make man in our image. That is, that was a man plan in his mind. That was exactly like this, having a heart of man, having the soul, having the spirit. Now, utter him to carry my image and my likeness. So the man that God eventually created now was like this. This is the soul. This is the spirit. This is the final production of man now. This is at the planning stage. This is at the production stage. He has a heart, which is the heart of man that makes him behave like man. Now, before I forget, he coded this heart. He will put code. That's the way you code computer on how a computer should function. This heart was coded to behave like man. That is, man sleeps, man wakes up, man has a wife, man should have children, man should be able to make love, man should be able to reason, man should be able to be productive. Everything you can think about man was coded there. Bible says so. Very clear. So, it is that coding that determines what you are. If you are coded us like animal, we will have behaved like animal. So this place was coded to make us behave like man. So there are instructions of how man should behave written in the man's heart. But at the point of production now, he altered this structure to carry God, the life of God too, apart from the life of man. Apart from the life of man that he carried, is now carrying the life of God, powered by the Holy Spirit, living in him. So this is the man eventually called Adam that God created. Now, the essence of this is, even though man has his own life and the way God wanted him to live if he was man, God wanted him not to live by it, but live by the life of God. That's what the Bible means by the image and the likeness of God. Even though man has his own life, he wants him to live by the life of God. And that's what we do now as Christians. We have the human life. God wants us to live by the Spirit of God that's in us. That's how he created Adam. This is what the Bible meant by created in God's image and in God's likeness. Unfortunately, man sinned. So, this is Adam now, who lived for some years before he fell. But when Adam fell, this system was corrupted, was changed to something like this. Now, let us assume this is the life of man inside the heart. Let's put it like that. The life of man in the heart, the life of man in the heart. I mean, the life of God here in the heart. Now, at the point of fall, now when man fell, when Adam fell, the life of God departed from him. That's what the Bible meant when it said he became dead. That is, separated completely from God. So the life of God here disappeared. It's no longer there. But he still carrying the life of man. That's in his heart, in the heart of man here. So he's still carrying that. Unfortunately, another nature, another thing now enter into him to corrupt this life of man that was in him. That is called sin. Let's put it here. So what came out of man, that out of the Garden of Eden, was this. What God planned at the initial stage was this, having a way he wanted him to behave. If he had created him without image or likeness, this is the one that created with image or likeness, with God wanted him to behave like God, even though he has his own life. This is the one that was actually put in the garden, but immediately he fell. This is the one that came out of the garden. That doesn't have the life of God. Neither did he return to the initial stage. He had something else that partner with him called sin. That sin is the reason why we commit sin. Now, why are we doing all of this? This man that was here, he could drink. By God's design, this man can drink, but he should not be drunk. He could have a wife, but he should not have multiple wives, like we see today. He could have pleasure. Let him feel good. The Bible says God has given us all things for us to enjoy. So he could pleasure, but God didn't expect him to be rebelling. He could love without hating. He could have ambition without hurting another person or being jealous or envious of another person. He could desire without being covetous. This was the man God created. But unfortunately, when man fell, the man that came out now, that was not living by the life of God, who was supposed to live by the life of man, when God departed for him, he was not living by the life of man, he was living by this product here. And this product now has been tainted. The life of man here has been tainted by another life or by another's nature called sin. So what was coming out of here now was not what was planned here again. So what was coming out of here now could drink and become drunk. It could womanize, it could be promiscuous, it could be greedy, it could be covetous, it could be everything. Because what? The sin has partnered with him, different from what was there. Now, the problem is that when this man came out, it could, the sin nature that partnered with him affects man different way. For instance, if you have two men, let's say man A and man B, this man A might be affected in the area of anger. So he's given to anger, but he's not given to immorality. This one might be given to immorality and not given to anger. This might be given to both immorality and anger. Like that, affected in different ways. That's to say, there was no longer standard of actually what God created at the beginning, how God wanted human being to behave. So the human being that came out of the Garden of Eden now, some of them could behave differently. That's as Adam began to give birth. Some could be given to anger, some could be given to immorality, some could be given to evil stealing, some could be given to drunkenness, some could be given to covetousness, some could combine 2, 3, or 4 of all those things that we call the, what do you call it in Galatians? They call it the works of the flesh. So combined with man. So at that point that Adam was coming out now, there was no standard as to how God wanted human being to behave, even though he didn't have the life of God again. So there was the necessity for God to write out what he actually put here at the beginning. That's why you now have the Old Testament. We're going to go there. So at the planning stage now, God knew all of this will happen. So he thought of writing a manual, and that manual now, it should have something they call the standard they wanted for man. The man that doesn't have God, he brought it out there. So that's the sense of need for what do you call it? Absolute truth. So that the problem we have today, where some people will say, this is my true, relative truth, will not come up. God knew that will come up. That a time was going to come in the life of man that they'll begin to say, this is my truth, this is your truth. We do not have truth. You say, no, why are you disturbing me? That's what I believe. That's my thing. All of that. No, there's absolute truth that God wanted at the beginning, that came out was corrupted, and so God planned to write it out through the Bible. That's one of the things that God thought of, that he needed to write a Bible to have absolute truth written out there, and again, he needed to live that life. And we're going to see that not only will God write out something for you, it will bring somebody who will live that life, so that you'll be sure that that life is practicable. Now, another thing God thought of is that the need for justice. In fact, this is so important because the problem of the world today is injustice. We're going to go there. So God planned that one day he was going to judge man. So there was the need for man to have justice too. Not that because he's God, he will just bully us and say, you did this, you did that. No. He wants to give you standard. Don't do this. Like he told Adam. Do not eat of so tree. If you eat it, this is what will happen to you. So the same way, God thought of, he needed to give us justice on what he expected from us. And if we don't do those things, what will be the consequence of our actions? So he needed to think of that there must be absolute truth. And beside the absolute truth now, justice will come. And if God does not give us this absolute truth, He will not be able to judge us. Because again, what will He be judging us? Against no standard. Which we saw in the book of Genesis from chapter 1 to chapter 5. There was no standard. He didn't give anybody standard. Immediately Adam came out of the garden. No standard. So He couldn't judge nobody. Of course, once in a while He judge, and there are reasons for that I might not want to go into because of time. So, but all I'm saying is that there's also the need for justice. Let's see that in Romans chapter 5 verse 13. Or let's see John 15:21 first. John 15:21. John 15:21, 22. But all these things we did do unto you for my name's sake, because they know not Him that sent me. If I had not come and spoken unto them, note that, they had not had sin. But now that they have no cloak for their sin. That is, if I've not spoken unto them, then you can't judge them. If no instruction is given, you can't say somebody has done anything wrong. So the same way, one of the reasons why God thought of writing for us the absolute truth is that we have the basis, the reason for Him to judge us. That I gave you what I expected from you. You didn't do it, and so that's why I'm judging you. So that came up again. Then, like I said, not only will God give you all those things, He will also want to show you that this thing that are given to you is practicable. In fact, that's the way of God. For instance, if God wants you to do something for Him, He will bring somebody who is of lesser value, of lesser strength, of lesser wisdom than you to do it. If that person does it now, it will now call you to do it, so that if you don't do it, He will be able to tell you that you are better than this person. Why were you not able to do it? So in everything that God does, if you look at the Bible, He will bring somebody to practicalize that thing for you. That person might be of lesser standard, it might not be, but at least will be somebody like you. It may bring a woman being like you who will try that thing out, work it out, and God will be able to tell you that this thing is workable. Let's see the book of Matthew chapter 12, 41 and 42. Matthew 12, 41 and 42. The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment. See that? With this generation, I shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonas, and behold, a greater than Jonas is here. He said, on the last day, I'm going to present Jonah to you. That Jonah preached to people of Nineveh, they changed. But Jesus came, He preached to you, and He still didn't change. Jesus that was higher preached to you, didn't change. Ordinary Jonah preached to people, they changed. So Jonah is going to stand against a generation that, if all those people could listen to Jonah, why couldn't you listen to Jesus, the Son of God? So the same way again, in verse 22, He said, 42, He said, the queen of south shall rise up in judgment with this generation. I shall condemn it. For she came from the uttermost part of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And behold, a greater than Solomon is here. When you recall again in the book of Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, the Bible says we are encompassed with a cloud of witnesses. People who have lived in this life, who are more terrible environment and condition more than us, and they made it. They didn't compromise who they were. So on no account will you compromise no matter what you're going through. There's nothing that is happening to you now that's never happened to somebody before. Or even somebody who's not as strong as you are, who's not as endowed as you are, and the person did not budge. So if that person does not budge, why should you budge? That's what God is saying. That on the last day, there are people who will stand. Upon seeing them alone, you'll not be able to talk. And there were so many women around me in my place of war. They were tempting me. There was nothing I could do. They will bring people who stood in that kind of environment and never fell. Where I was working, my son was sick. There was no money. I was not well paid. I was not well remunerated. So I needed money. So my son will not die. They'll bring somebody who had worse condition that didn't compromise. And you're going to see that person, you'll not be able to talk. For instance, in Nigeria, we have the police force that people believe are very corrupt. But we have some policemen too who have returned money that they saw somewhere, maybe missed by somebody, mistakenly placed somewhere by somebody, or somebody had lost, running to millions, and they return to the owner. So you cannot come and say, hey, when I was in the police force, they didn't pay me well. That's why I stole. God will bring that kind of person. Say, can you remember the story of so person at so time? That person was in condition worse than yours and didn't compromise. So God is saying that on no condition should anybody compromise, because it's going to bring people on that day that will testify against you. Or for instance, I'm a single mother, I'm a father, I'm a man, I didn't have a wife, my wife was late, I was living alone, that's why I had the side chick, or that's why I had the man that was servicing me, or as case may be, all of that. God will bring people who lived on this earth and were not married and they didn't fornicate, and those and that about and they didn't go, hey, my husband was worse to me, it was depriving me of sex, that's why I went to have an affair with another man. God will bring people whose husband was worse than that and they still did not lose their sanctity, they didn't lose their chastity. God will bring them before you. So at every stage, whatever you are going through, there are people who have gone through worse situation and worse condition. So you cannot adduce the fact that hey, the situation was too much for me, I couldn't endure. No. So one of the things God is going to do on the last day is to present somebody to us who has lived that life. So everything God is doing with us, his plan is that I will bring somebody who will live that life out. For instance, we're going to go further and say that nations, prosperity of nations, how nations will be organized, everything. We're going to see that's the real reason why God brought Israel. That Israel will live that life out. So that if nation can look at Israel, they will know how they should be organized, how they can be prosperous, how they can do things on earth and have the best for themselves. That's why Israel came. We're going to see it later. And leadership, you're going to see also how God brought somebody to live the life of a leader for us, so that if you're a political leader, you will know what to do. So at every stage of human life, God planned that they should have somebody who will live that life out, who will practicalize that thing, so that we see that this thing is workable, is practicable, that God was not expecting too much from us, and that again, that we can live the best of life. That person will live out the good life, and how it came about that good life, and we can see how to live a good life here on earth. So God considered that too, that there was a need for not only a justice system, there was a need for somebody who will live the life that God is expecting from us at every stage, and who will not compromise, and or not only compromise, who will live it out for our own good too, so we know how to live a very good life and productive life here on earth. You may want to know that the reason why God actually created man was because of this justice that we're talking about. Justice is so important to God. And I'm going to show you later that the first instruction God gave to man after he came out of the garden over there was about justice. That's the first instruction before any other thing. The first thing thought of was justice. So justice was the reason why he created man. The devil fell. When he fell, God judged him and said he deserved hell. I don't know whether he argued with God, I don't know. But God said, okay, before I throw you to hell, I will bring people to live the life I expected you to live that you failed. And those people will succeed in that life. And when they succeed, you will not be able to talk. That will quieten you. You will not be able to talk. Then I will throw you to hell. Let's see that in book of Ezekiel chapter 28. Ezekiel 28, 16 and 17. It said, by the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence. And thou hast sinned. Therefore, I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy you. See, this is a judgment. It was going to destroy him. O covering cherub, from the midst of the stone of fire. That is, it was going to cast into fire, that it was going to destroy him. That's the judgment. But before the judgment now, let's see verse 17. Thy heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings. Note that. I will cast you to the ground. That's before the destruction he pronounced earlier. And I will lay you before kings. Who are the kings God was talking about? At the point of Satan falling, now Lucifer, at the point that he fell, man had not been created. Yet God was saying here that kings, I will lay you before kings. Who are those kings? If you search the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, there's nobody that called kings other than human beings. Human beings who are born again. The Bible says, I have made those kings and priests unto himself. So what the Bible was saying here is that I was going to create a fresh set of people. And those set of people now will be called human beings. And those who will be born again among them will be called kings and priests, as the case may be. I will lay you before them. For what purpose? Let's see. That they may behold thee. They may behold thee. Let's see another translation of the meaning of behold thee in New International Version. It said, your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. You see, I don't want to explain all of this because of time. That's not where we're going. Because we can explain that they corrupted his beauty, and that is factored into the man God was creating too. All these things that he did, God factored them into the man too. I cast you to the ground. It's also, I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. You see, I made a spectacle. I disgrace you. And what is that disgrace? If you go and read the book of Colossians chapter 2, you read for around 40:15. I don't want to go into that. I know they've taught you that Jesus, it was about power. Jesus demonstrated power in hell. I don't know the power Jesus demonstrated in hell, because the Bible was clear that it was God that raised him up. It was not him that raised himself. So the spectacle Bible is talking about in Colossians chapter 2, 13 and 14 was the spectacle of hanging on the tree, which was supposed to be a shameful thing, but in the spirit realm of the spectacle. What is the spectacle there? Is that he obeyed God to the end. He did what devil could not do. Devil could not obey God in everything, but Jesus obeyed God in everything, putting him to shame. Now, don't forget that the book of Hebrews said that Jesus was a human being. I'm going to go into that too. Jesus was practically a human being. It doesn't matter what they have told you about Jesus. I'm not saying he's not God, he's God, but he became God. But it was practically made like Adam, no difference. If Adam had succeeded, it would have been exactly like Jesus. If he had succeeded the plan that God was having at the beginning, there wouldn't have been any need for Jesus. And Adam would have been exactly like Jesus in everything. But he failed. That's why Jesus needed to come, the second Adam. Now, Jesus was a human being in every sense of it like Adam. But he was now made Lord and Christ, according to Acts chapter 2, I think verse 36, 37, or 35, 36, 37, we'll read around that area. Now, what that means is, in Hebrew, the Bible says he was made a little lower than angels. That is, a little lower than the devil. And now the person who was made lower than the devil succeeded in where the devil could not succeed. That's a disgrace to the devil. That was the spectacle that the Bible was talking about. So he made spectacle of him on the cross. The Bible didn't say in the grave. If you go and read that place, the spectacle was on the cross, not in resurrection. So when he was hanging on the cross, which humanity will have said is a disgraceful thing, Jesus, they hung him on the cross, God was proving a point that what Satan cannot do, obedience to the end, Jesus did it, who was not made as beautiful as Lucifer was. And he obeyed God to the end. If anybody was supposed to disobey, it was Jesus. It was human being. But yet, Jesus, who was representing the human race, stood and did what God expected, making spectacle of the devil. That's what the Bible is saying here in the book of Ezekiel. So, what am I trying to say is, God is so particular about justice. I know if I were God, I wouldn't need to prove anything to the devil. You disobey me, go to hell. I'll send you to hell. But God wanted to prove to him that I'm not an unjust God. I'm a just God in every sense of it. The assignment I gave to you was not too much for you. It was not something you couldn't do. If you tell me something you couldn't do, I'm going to bring somebody who is of lesser value than you are and will succeed where you fail. And that now, by that, you'll be silenced. And that's what God gave to the devil. He silenced him by the death of Jesus on the cross. And all the principalities and power, they couldn't talk again because they saw the obedience of one man unto the end, even including death upon the cross. According to Philippians chapter 2, I think verse maybe 5, 6, 7, all of that. Now, that's the buttressing the fact that if you can succeed in a thing, why shouldn't I succeed? If you can stand your ground in the face of temptation, why shouldn't I stand my ground in the face of temptation? If you say you will not steal money in that office and you didn't steal, in spite of all the terrible situations you are going through, why should I steal? Why should I steal? If you will not fornicate, why should I fornicate? And that's the kind of mindset that God wants us Christians to possess. That as long as somebody that is still standing on the surface of the earth, why should it be you that is falling? Why should it be you that is fornicating? Why should it be you that is not praying? Say you don't have time. And somebody who doesn't even have time at all, who is walking around the clock, is still having time to pray. And you, for the small work you are doing, maybe 9 to 5 that you are doing, you are not having time for God. So God is saying that those who will testify against on the last day, that everything was given to you, you cannot even fast. You can't fast. And he says because also they will bring somebody who was in worse condition and has been fasting. They will bring it to you. Here, I have ulcer. For instance, I had ulcer around 2006, thereabout. But I knew that for how long will I claim I have ulcer? So I used to combine it with fasting. It was with me for 9 good years before it disappeared. Sometimes I will be wriggling in pain, but I knew that for how long will I be nursing ulcer and not pray and not do what is expected of me? So I'm just using that as an example that people like me will stand on the last day and tell you that you say you were not fasting. That's why you couldn't possess the power as a Christian that you were supposed to possess so that you can do the work that God has committed to your hand. God will bring people like me and say, my so person stood. It was a worse situation by you. He had ulcer too. He didn't allow us to stop him from being who he wanted to be. So at every stage, there'll be somebody that God will bring to show you that you had no reason, no excuse for failure. Now, again, God at the planning stage thought of what he needed to do when man fell, as to what he put in man that be yearning for worship. How do I mean? When God created this man here, this man that I say here, there was something. Let me enlarge this place. Now, this man that we said here, let's say this is the heart, this is human life that we said here. Now, in this place, there was a place there that God put something they call eternity. Eternity. Eternity that He put there. So, let me say let's say this is Adam now that has the life of God here. Adam has the life of God here at the point of creation. Now, the plan of God is that man was to live by human nature, which was there, if he didn't have God. Now that he had God, he was to live by God's nature, God's life, which was there. And God wanted this life, this God's life, to be organic to him. When I say organic now, not to live in his spirit, to live in his soul, where his heart is. God wanted to carry this life of God here and put it in his heart, as if he is writing, as if he's putting God's life here. So this God life now, if man would do the right thing, we did a teaching on that, and now the process of how God wanted man to do that. There were things that God expected of man. If man does it, he was going to be able to make this life of God here to be formed here. So this life of God will no longer be able to be here. So that on the last day, after resurrection, after judgment, once man dies, man loses his spirit. The Bible says, when man dies, his spirit will go to the one who created him. So it's the soul that will remain. So if man had done the right thing, the life of God that was there, somebody who had the life of God, will have been here. So this becomes organic to him. There are a lot of things I can say around there, but I don't want to say now. So the life of God is going to be here. This is what Jesus did perfectly, that Adam couldn't do, that made us to call him God. Because he had both the life of God and the life of man inside of him. So at every particular time when Jesus was behaving on earth, he didn't behave by the life of man or act by the life of man. He acted by the life of God. So when he was talking to us, God talking, that God is called Christ. That's the God the Son. I don't want to go into Trinity, because that will be another teaching on its own. But I'm just trying to say that's what Jesus did successfully. To have this life of God formed in here, called eternity. Let me give a biblical part. So, immediately Adam sinned now, and the life of God was no longer there. This place kept on yearning for a deity to serve. That place called eternity. Since the life of God that was supposed to occupy that place was no longer there, it kept yearning for something to serve. That's why our forefathers were serving idols, like in my culture, they were serving Ogun, god of, I think, iron. They were serving god of thunder, that's Shango. They are serving water, that's Oshun, all of that. They were doing that. Why? Something kept yearning for service, for worship in man. And you're going to see that God didn't take it against man too until he provided solution on how he wanted that place to be free through Jesus. If he had not brought Jesus, God wouldn't have judged us for this. Why? He put us there, that we should yearn for something. And so this didn't tell us what we should yearn for. Immediately after Adam fell, there is not a fault. So you will see that it didn't punish us for it. It won't punish no man before Jesus for this, who filled this place with serving idol, whether iron or Ogun or all of that. So man kept yearning. So God wanted to tell us that this place is not meant for anything but for him. Then in his planning stage, he needed to have that demonstrated out to us, which we are going to see as we go further how that was demonstrated in Israel and all of that. So let's see the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11 to give biblical support to that. Ecclesiastes 3:11. He has made everything beautiful in his time. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts. Like I told you, he put eternity in the heart of man. He has put eternity in there, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. So he put eternity in their heart. Let me now prove to you that eternity was supposed to be occupied by God. Let's go to Isaiah 57, we read verse 15. He said, for thus said the high and lofty one that inhabited eternity. You have seen that. Thus said the high and lofty one, that's God now, that inhabited eternity. God is one that inhabits eternity. So the eternity man that was meant to be occupied by God. But when man lost out in the Garden of Eden, man started yearning for worship of any deity that they can find. As we see further, let's go to the book of Acts also to see that God didn't take it against us because He didn't provide a solution to that thing for us. Acts chapter 17, just like I said, God is a just God. He won't judge you unfairly or unjustly, as the case may be. He won't do that. 17, let's start for 23. For as I passed by and bear your devotion, I found an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God. So they were serving God. They didn't know the name of the God. They saw unknown God. Whom therefore ye ignorantly worship. Him declare unto you. Just like I've explained. Man began to worship things ignorantly. Things that they didn't know. Now 24. And God made the world and all things therein, seeing that He is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands. Neither is worship with men's hands, as though He needed anything. See, He giveth to all life and breath and all things, and hath made of one blood all nations of men, for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of the habitation. 27. That they should seek the Lord. You see, that we should seek the Lord. He has done all this that we can seek Him. So this people kept seeking God. If haply they might feel after Him and find Him, though He be not far from every one of us. So you see that, like I said, we start seeking. If you go further, you see that the Bible says God didn't take it against us. That was seeking all manners of things before Jesus came. Now, let's go to the need for communal living. Another thing God thought of when He was planning how the world should run, the example should give us, and what should be in the manual was how we should live in community, communal living. Now, I'm going to take another teaching on this because this is a problem that we have today, that people have not understood this, especially Christians, that our blessing is in our community. Our blessings, God has put in our nation. If our nation should fail us, there will be trouble. And there's nothing God can do about it, whether you're a Christian or not. Because I hear people talk about the economy of heaven, the economy of God, all of that. I'm going to take a teaching on that too, because I want us to understand some of these things. That's why we have the mess in Christianity today. That's why we have Africa the way we are. We don't even understand the plan of God for how humanity should run. God planned us that we should live as nations, and that your blessing is put in your nation. And so if your nation is not doing well economically, a lot of you will not do well. Of course, there'll be one or two people who will be lucky or who will prosper. But majority will suffer, like we see in Africa, regardless of the fact that they are Christians. Because why? Your blessing has been put by the Creator in the community, in the nation. And so, we're going to see that one of the reasons why now God brought the nation of Israel was to live out how a nation should live, so that through Israel you can learn how to prosper on earth, how a nation should prosper. If your nation now prosper, you will also prosper. Even without the Bible, you can see all around you. People prosper in America. Why? Because America has a buoyant economy, robust economy. People are not doing well in Africa because our economies are not good. That's the truth. You go to places like Kuwait, they are doing well. They don't know God. Why? The nations are good. They made use of the natural resources God has given to them. In Venezuela, they have the resources. They have the largest deposit of crude oil. They are not using it judiciously, and they are suffering. So if your nation is good, it will be good for you. Don't let me go further, because we're going to have another teaching on that, on the plan of God to take away poverty from men. So God planned community lifestyle, communal lifestyle for us, from where we can prosper. If you go to the book of Genesis, chapter 2, you're going to see there that the Bible said, on earth, God put gold, mineral resources, all of that on the earth. And you know, these things are not just in everybody's portion. It is just scattered in nations. That means if we don't live in community, there'll be a problem. We'll be scrambling for who has it, who doesn't have this. But God is expecting that the one that falls within your nation now, your nation can harness it, they can extract it, they can make good use of it, and have buoyant economy through it, through the product and so many other things that we have. So if God wanted us to live singly, He will have put Maybe everybody's portion will put mineral resources for you. If you don't organize ourselves into nations, we'll not be able to harness this thing together. So God intentionally planned us into nations. And we have done that in several teachings. That is God that planned us into nations. Let me just read a few Bible passages like Genesis 2:18. And the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. It's not good. Man alone is not a perfect arrangement. I will make him a helpmeet for him. There's always something in you that is lacking for you to be complete. So somebody else will provide that aspect. For instance, let's say I'm living on earth alone now. Will I have the wisdom all by myself to make clothes for myself, to make wristwatch for myself, to make a phone for myself? Some people are making phone. I have money, I buy it. It's possible maybe me too, I make wristwatch. They will have money and buy it. So my nation can be making wristwatch, they're making phone, another nation is making, like that. So like that, we live in communities. I buy from you, you buy from me. Nobody has it all. So God planned us to live in community because nobody has it all. It is when we combine our effort now that we can maximize whatever ability or capacity or capabilities that we have. Okay, let's see other passages also that God put us into community. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. Very clear. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he faileth. For he hath not another to help him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have it. But how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and threefold cord is not quickly broken. So God thought of all of this that he will need, since he knew that everything everybody needs has not been put in him, he will need to group all into nations. This is the reason God group all into nations, so that we can maximize the endowment, the wisdom, and the resources that God has given to us. When we are next there, we can maximize them and whatever. So a thought of grouping us into nations. And like I told you, not only will now group us into nations, he will now give a sample of how he wants that nation to be. We're going to see in our next teaching on how he wants nations to run for us to maximize all these things that we have seen. You will recall that even in New Testament, Jesus said he will build his church. He didn't say, I will build you. He said, his church. That is all of us together. It is in building a church now that you have your own profit. I don't know everything. You don't know everything. What you know, what I know will bring it together. That's why there are prophets, there are evangelists, there are teachers, there are people in government, there are people who give and all of that God has there are evangelists, all of that. Why? That all of us together makes a whole. There was never a time God planned us to live individually or to live without others. We're to live communal life. It is from that we can maximize our destiny here. Our endowment and everything God has given to us. So he thought of putting us in nations, group into nations, and he thought of appointing a nation to live out the life he expects from a nation to us. Now, since God wanted us to have nations, definitely there must be leadership. Judges 17:6. In those days, there was no king in Israel, but every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Once there's no king, no leadership, everybody will do what he wants. There will be chaos, there will be disorder. If there's nothing like UN, there will be problem. Even when we have all the nations together, you don't have UN to adjudicate or to blend us together or to stand and do as intermediary. There's problem between people and all of that. There will be issues. So in nations, there must be leadership. Among us too, the nations put together, there should be leadership in UN, United Nations. You say, what concerns God, United Nations? If you read the Bible, you know that everything was planned out by God himself at the beginning. Although it's woman that will carry this out, but it's the one that will move through man to make sure that is possible. We've done teachings in the past where we said that it was God. Even the place we read in Acts chapter 7, it was there. He said, I think around that verse 25, right? He said group into nations. So when people now came and start dividing into nations, it was not their plan. It was God's initiative. Of course, it might not be the number of nations that God intended that we have now. It might not be, no doubt about that. The nations now might be political. But the truth is that the idea of putting us in nations was by God. Why? For us to have our resources together, so that if it's good for the nation, it will be good for the people. He doesn't want us to just scatter everywhere, no control, disorder, all of that. No. And I've said that once there is a nation, then there must be leadership. Let's go to Romans chapter 13. Romans 13, we're going to read verse 1. In fact, from my heading here, it said, submit to government. Under New King James Version, it said, the subtitle of this is submit to government. Now let's read it. It says, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers. For there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. You have seen that. God is the one that ordained power. Let's read other versions like New Living Translation. It says, obey the government, for God is the one that put it there. All governments have been placed in power by God. Please don't get it wrong that what this place is saying is that God is the one that appoints who will be in leadership. No. It's very clear if you read where God was talking to people of Israel. I told you that God will appoint a nation, which was Israel now. He wants that nation to leave it out. He'll give instruction to that nation that wants us to, to copy. Like I told you earlier. So if you go to the book of Deuteronomy, you're going to see where God told them that when you want to appoint a king, meaning that it's our responsibility to do that. Now, someone was telling me some time ago that Israel was the one that asked for king. God didn't want that. No. Israel asked for king before time. God already told Moses that a time will come that they will need king. And he gave instruction on who a king should be. He gave it to them. But unfortunately, Israel asked for king before the time God wanted them to have king. And that's why they had nobody who could be that king that was good enough. God was not prepared for that. God had to give them the best person that was available, which was Saul. Saul was not God's best. But that's what God gave to them. Why did God give them? Because like I told you in everything, God will want somebody to act that out. Not only will he give you instruction, he will want somebody to act that out. So he wanted somebody to act who a king should be out after giving them the instruction. Unfortunately, the person they had was not the one that was prepared. You recall that when God brought David now, David acted that out perfectly. He said, I found a man after my heart. Who will do all my will? What is the will? Who will live the life of a leader that will become the model, the template of who a leader should be? So in the world today, you want to know what a leader should be, who government should be, go and look at David. How he lived his life. How he put the interests of the people above his own personal interests. How he didn't head on to government tenaciously that said, I must die. When they wrestled the government for him, he didn't care. Even when Saul was still holding part of the government, that God told him would give him everything, he didn't lobby, he didn't fight for it. And so many other things you can glean from the life of David. How a king should rule. If we rule like that today, there won't be issues. We'll put people above us. We will not say we must be in government at all costs. It will not be a do or die affair. We'll be humble because we saw him so humble that he was dancing and one of the wives was now telling him that, can you see yourself dancing? But today, the king we have can't dance like that because they feel they're above the people. They should carry themselves one kind of dignity. That, I don't know. Carry themselves one kind of necessary honor. I'm not saying they should not give them honor. What I'm saying is, you were taken from the people. You shouldn't be greater than the people. The same way Jesus proved to us that we should not be greater than the people, that they cannot even differentiate Jesus from the people. And that's the way David lived too. So, you have read it there that God ordained government, and we should listen to government. But when we say God ordained government, God was not the one appointing, but God was the one that initiated the idea of having government. So every government that's in place now, there is a power of God that is supporting that throne. That throne of government, not that person in particular, but the throne of government. The person that will be there will be appointed by us, but immediately that person gets there, we must support that person for our country to move forward. It doesn't matter whether that person is from your party, that person is not from your party, whether that person was rigged into office or not. The fact that he has climbed that place and we couldn't do anything to remove him, we must support him. Because supporting him means we are supporting our nation. Supporting him means that we are doing what God expects from us. So it doesn't matter how he got there. We can find a way to remove it, there's a way, but as long as it's on that seat, we should support his policy, we should pray that it rules well, we should pray that God will give him wisdom to rule us well, because the decision we make will affect you and I. So David was the one that came to live the life of that king for all. Just like I said, that God will appoint somebody to live that life, so it becomes a template for everybody. Again, we know that Jesus needed to come. And I told you earlier when I began that God had to decide at what point will Jesus come. Should he have come maybe a few years after Adam? Should he have come before Abraham? Should he have come immediately after Abraham? Should he have come in the days of Moses? What were those things that God thought of that decided when Jesus should come? Let's first start with Hebrew 9, 8 to 10. The Holy Ghost did signify that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifice that could not make him that did the sacrifice perfect, pertaining to the conscience. 10, our emphasis, which stood only in meat and drink, and divers washing, and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of reformation. So there was a time of reformation, a time that Jesus must come. So before that time, he couldn't come. Like I told you, a lot of planning, a lot of thinking went into creation before God decided how we should live. Like I told you, going into nations, all of that were planned before we were even created. Again, let's see Galatians 4, 3 to 5. Galatians 4, 3 to 5. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the element of this world. But when the fullness of time was come, the fullness of time, that was the right time Jesus must come, God sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. So there was a time that God planned that Jesus needed to come, not just any time, not before David, not before Abraham, not before Moses, not in Genesis and all of that. What were those things God looked at? One is that it's the historical perspective to the humanity of Jesus. I would love to teach Trinity, but I just made up my mind I'm not going to teach it until years to come. I have my reasons, but I've just hinted it in what we did earlier. If Jesus was not a human being, he would be able to fulfill the purpose for which he came. He needed to be human. Why? God cannot die. God cannot be tempted. James chapter is it 2 or 3 told us, or chapter 1, that God cannot be tempted. That don't say when you are tempted that you are tempted for God. Say because God cannot be tempted, and God does not tempt anybody. God cannot die. God cannot be weary. God cannot sleep. God cannot grow. Jesus grew. So God needed to prove to us that, and prove to the devil that the person I brought was a human being. It was a human being in every sense of it. Every sense of it you can think of. The same way you and I were human beings. The only difference between you and Jesus was that Jesus never had the same nature that I talked about, that Adam introduced to us by his fall. But the same way Adam was made without sin nature, that carried the life of man, the life of God, was the same way Jesus was made to carry the life of God and the life of man. The needful that Jesus did was not made him God. And the life of God that was in him is what is called Christ. Because that's the God, the Son. Okay, I will not go deep into that, but I'm just trying to say that if Jesus was not a human being, there was no way he could die. If Jesus was not a human being, he couldn't redeem us because we're human. If Jesus was not a human being, he wouldn't give the justification to what God was trying to do by the creation of humanity, that devil must be put in hell at the end. He wouldn't give that justification. Okay, let me just read for you Hebrew 2:9, then 14 to 18. But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels. This is in the Bible. Jesus was made a little lower than the angels. It's in the scripture. And you know, devil was in category of angel before, so you can say it was made a little lower than the devil. For the purpose I've said earlier when I was talking. He said it was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that by the grace of God should taste death for every man. Please, I am not saying Jesus was not God. What I was saying is that he was practically a human being who was promoted God. And the process of promotion is what I don't want to go into. But he was practically made a human being. Then, as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is, the devil. If you read the book of Hebrews chapter 5, is it? Chapter 10, you will see there where he said, a body you are prepared for me. In the volume of it is written that I've come to do your will. What is that body? That body is Jesus. Who is that one that was speaking a body? That's Christ. That's the God in him. But the humanity is the one that directs the God that was in him. I don't want to go into teaching of Jesus. But he was a human being. He needed to be a human being. He needed to be a human being. Why did he need to be a human being? One, to die and all of that. Two, to prove to you that if Jesus can do something, you can do it. If Jesus was not a human being, God would not have justification to tell me that I should be like Jesus. What justification? Wouldn't it be easy for him to be like that because he was God? So how can God tell me to be like God? Is it possible? Am I not a human being? But why God is giving justification that you should be like Jesus because he was a human being? Wait till the day I teach Trinity. Then you understand the Christ in him that was God, and the real woman in him that was Jesus, and the woman in him was the one that had the life, and they want to decide. And now he was raised, and the Bible says he has made him Christ and Lord. So, like we read there, he needed to be human being for the destruction of. Let's go further, verse 15. And deliver them who, through fear of death, were all their lifetime subject to bondage. For verily, he took not of him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. Wherefore, in all things, he behoved him to be made like unto his brethren, that is, a human being, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest, that he might feel what we're going through. If it's God, he cannot feel it. God cannot feel pains. Priest, in things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. Verse 18, the law. For in that, he himself has suffered, been tempted. You see, he was tempted. God cannot be tempted. He is able to succumb them that are tempted. Maybe I should read for you where the Bible says God cannot be tempted. James, chapter 1. Verse 13. James 1:13. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil. Neither tempted he any man. God cannot be tempted. God cannot be tempted. And he doesn't tempt anyone. So God cannot die, like I said. There's so many passages that talked about Jesus, but I will not discuss it. But I'm not saying it's not God, it's God. But there's a process that made him God. He was basically a human being at the point of coming to the earth. So to prove his humanity now, he needed to come at a point that he had to add genealogy to prove that he was actually a human being. He had a father, although foster father, but he had a mother, physical one. He didn't drop from heaven. So they needed to put that genealogy that was human in every sense of it. So he needed to have a genealogy that it came from so lineage, it can be proven. I met a man recently. He said the story of Jesus was a fiction, that is not true. It didn't exist. So if God didn't prove all of this through having long time before he came, those people will have truly said Jesus never existed. But you could see, people go to Israel, even though Israel doesn't believe that Jesus is God, yet they have not disproved the fact that Jesus lived. There was a time and life of Jesus on earth. He lived. He was a human being. He lived. In fact, the reason why they didn't believe was what we call in God is because they knew he lived. Like human being, he could cry, he could do everything. They knew he lived. So there's no doubt as to the fact that Jesus was a human being and that he grew among the people. Peter said, he said, when we make up of the fact that we saw his glory on the mount, he said, we're not trying to make up any fable. How did he put it? Let's see. Okay, 2 Peter 1:16. For we have not followed cunningly devised fables, when we made known unto you the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but we were eyewitnesses of his glory. So there needed to be eyewitnesses that he lived, he was human, and everything about him was human. Then it's coming out to be after all the other people had come, because once he came, it was so close. There was no need for any leader again to show us anything, because it was the supreme leader. So David that acted political leadership needed to come before him. So that's to say that Jesus wouldn't come until people like David that come. God wanted us to be in nations, and the nations should be acted out. That means until that nations have been formed and acted out, and God is satisfied that they've acted what he wanted them to act, Jesus wouldn't come. Because once Jesus come, end of the road for any other thing. So all those things went into discussion, went into consideration before the coming of Jesus. So it means that redemption can only be after other things have come and lived their life out. So these are some of the plans that God had in mind when he was creating man. And when should this come? Who should do this? Who should do that? What do I need to put in place? What do I need to put in place? Now the final thing is that I needed to put up now a Bible that you call manual. And like I said earlier, God will capture everybody that will live on earth. So God capture everybody in that manual, because that manual will now be for everybody. And the next teaching now, which I'm going to go to after this one, the next teaching, I'm going to now prove to you that the Israel that you saw is a nation that God wanted it to live the life of a nation that doesn't know God and a nation that knows God. So Israel was a prototype of a nation that knows God and a nation that does not know God. So when your nation now is patterned after Israel, it could get the best out of this world. That's Israel in the Bible. If there is chaos on earth, if we look at the Bible, we'll find solution. Like we have the Iran, Israel, and American war now. If I've gone by the precept of the Bible, if Christians know what to do, that wouldn't have been that war. I'm going to teach you the next one. What was it that Israel played out that God wanted us to learn as nations, whether that nation is born again or not born again, whether the nation knows God or doesn't know God. And I'm going to prove to you in the next teaching that the Israel that God was trying to push to us in the Old Testament was just not about serving God. It was about living the life of a nation for people to see. I'm going to prove all of that to us. I'm going to prove to us why God was killing in the days of Israel. And today you don't expect God to kill for anybody. He won't kill for you. He's not fighting for any Israel if you think God is fighting for any Israel. He's not fighting for nobody. God is a just God. He's a neutral God in everything that man does. Of course, there are times he comes in for certain reasons. But what I'm trying to say is that he's not the God that will be throwing bomb because of Israel, like he was doing in the Old Testament. It's not the God that is unjust, that wants you to be supporting Israel when Israel is not doing the right thing. No, I'm going to prove that one to us. I'm going to prove to us why God will tell nation of Israel to kill people when God does not like killing. So it's next teaching we're going to do that. So God now put the manual together, which is the Bible. So today, if there's problem everywhere, anywhere, like we say in Africa, if we look at the Bible, the church reading the Bible, knowing what to do from the Bible, should be able to provide solution to the problem of Nigeria. So all the poverty that people are going through, there's solution in the Bible. How a nation should be organized, how a nation should be ruled is in the Bible. Through Israel, we're going to learn that. I might not go deep into everything, but at least I'll give us some clue as to what God was expecting or how a nation should be organized. And that will be our next teaching. Based on that, I'm going to draw the curtain. And I want to believe that you have learned something on what went down when God was planning how the world to be, and how the manual is for everyone, not only for the nation of Israel. Someone may ask that if the manual was actually meant for the totality of humanity, that not only Christians, and that is, I'm talking about the Bible now, not only Christian, it's supposed to be for everybody, whether Christian or not Christians, that those who are not Christian don't believe in the Bible. They don't read the Bible. So how would they know what is expected of them? Somebody might come up with that. Now, the thing is, of course, God knew that some people will not believe in him. But the plan of God was that the church will be so schooled, and the church, being the pillar of truth, according to, is it 1st or 2nd Timothy, will know what to do. The Bible calls us the salt and the light of the world, meaning that we're the one giving them direction. We're the one telling them what to do. We're the one telling them what is expected of them. Now, I know you tell me, but we can give them instructions and they will not listen to us. No. When you live that life out, they will see that this is the life that is expected to live by people. They will see that this is what is correct. The Bible says, let them see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. There's a way that we can live as Christians, and people will see us and they will know that, no, this is the correct way of living. There's a way we can organize our nation as a Christian people now, knowing what to do. Our nation become prosperous, and through the template we are giving to them, and people come and copy that template from other nations. Even though the manual has been written, they are not reading it. We are reading it. We are interpreting it. We are living by it. We are teaching people about it. They now see it working, and they begin to live even though they are not reading the Bible. That's the plan of God. That's the plan of God, that they will see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So that's why you are the light and you are the salt of this world. Unfortunately, the church has read that to mean that you are the one that should have money. They read that to make money. No, we're talking about how a nation should be organized. We're talking about how to bring prosperity to a nation. We're talking about how to take care of everybody who's in that nation. We're talking about how to bring peace to a nation. We're talking about how to bring peace to the world. We're talking about how to solve problem of banditry in Nigeria. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about how to remove yahoo from our children. We're talking about how to put an end to ritual killing. We're talking about how to remove banditry. We're talking about how to remove drug addiction among our children. We're talking about how to curb divorce and so many things that Christianity is all about. We live the life. We practice it. We teach it. We effect it. They see it working and they want to join us. Like I said, in the next station, we're going to see so many things that I'm going to talk about. So they don't need to read the manual. They don't need to have the manual. We are the manual. We are the epistle. We are the one they are reading. We are the one they are saying. When it's working, they will copy. Everybody likes what is good. For instance, if you're a leader in Nigeria and you do the right thing, people will copy it. They want you to work. If the church has been doing what is needful, it becomes a prototype because we're a mini government. If the church is doing it right, getting it right, government will come and copy it. For instance, if the church has been accountable in everything, the money they collect, you can question your pastor and everything. The people of the church who are saying that will go to government and know that they must be accountable. They will know that they can be questioned. You see, if our leadership have submit themselves to authority too in the church, or if our leaders have known that the people first before them, our people saying that in church now will have gone to government and make sure that they do the right thing. Because part of the thing we teach them also, when we raise them in church, is to go and infiltrate government. So when we live that life, people see it and they know what to do. Isaiah chapter 2. I read 2 and 3. And it shall come to pass in last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all the nations shall flow into it. He said, when you are successful, when they see things working in Israel, other nations will come and learn. I'm not talking about money alone now. When they see peace that the people are enjoying, when they see, they see justice system that will practice, they come and copy it. Verse 3, he said, and many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord. He said, to the house of God of Jacob, you see, and he will teach us his ways. What is the way? The way a nation should be run, to bring peace, to bring prosperity to people, to bring justice, to bring equality to people, to bring fairness. They will see it, and we will walk in his paths. And for out of Zion shall go for the law of how it should be run, and the word of the law from Jerusalem. So you see, it's very clear that if Israel lead it out the right way, people will come and copy. That's what God is saying. So if Christian now, who is the church of today, who is Israel of today, have lead it out the right way, people will come and copy. We will be able to make our nations prosperous and peace. Even in the world, we're going to go there in the next teaching. You're going to see how to bring peace in the world. The plan of God to bring peace into the world. You're going to see it when we go to the next teaching. If we do the right thing. But if we don't do the right thing, starting from the church, there'll be a problem. America is going to war today because the Church of America has refused to teach the people of America what is expected of them. So when people go to government now, they go and do the wrong thing. They can go into war they're not supposed to go into. When they don't know the reason why God raised them to be the superpower of the world today. I'm going to teach us in the next one. On that note, I want to believe you learned something. So I want to also believe that you will listen to the second one, watch the part 2, so that you can have the real practicality of what God was expecting from us. Thank you, and God bless.